After two abysmal games in New York, the Nashville Predators wrap up this road trip with a 6-3 win. With so much inconsistently lately, there is one thing we think Predators fans can take away from this win over the Boston Bruins that could possibly carry over into next season. We're going to tell you what that is coming up.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Wednesday episode shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio, and friends, you know I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lincoln, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Emma, I can't believe it, but we actually get to sit here and talk about a Nashville Predators win today.
On the road against an Eastern Conference opponent, something that, yes, friends, has not happened yet this year until now.
Yeah.
We're going to win against an Eastern Conference opponent. It took,
84 years.
Yeah, 84 years basically is how long that took. So
yeah, this is a team that has been as inconsistent as a craps table in Vegas. But there is one thing from this win that Emma and I think could be a longer term takeaway. Now, we're not saying hitch your heart to this team for the rest of the season, but we are going to tell you one thing we noticed that we hope sticks around from this win over the Boston Bruins. Emma, I had no idea what to expect. Boston, of course, as a team fighting for an opportunity to get into the postseason. This was a big game for them. They were without Brad Marchand, who took a kind of a bad looking hit the other day, was out of the game. So it was a tough game for Boston. It was a game where they really had a lot to play for. And I think we all know Nashville right now, postseason, they got nothing to play for. But they came in like a team that was like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to screw around with this team that has hope, and we're going to kill their hope. And they did a 6-3 win over the Boston Bruins. I got to tell you, I was holding my breath, but then pleasantly surprised, not even about the result so much as the play. So we, of course, always start our game recaps off with one word to describe the game. Emma, I am going to give you the floor first. How would you describe this 6-3 win over the Boston Bruins?
I think my one word, and I think it is one word, like a hyphenated combo word.
Bonus points.
Whack-a-mole. Whack-a-mole, because this Predators team, 3 different times they went, first Boston scored, and then within 2 minutes, immediately Predators score again. And then later Boston goes ahead. Immediately 2 minutes later, Preds tie it again. That happened 3 times, and that is something that we have not seen from this team. That ability to just respond, after they go down early or go down at any point, really. It just usually happens to be early. But I think that it was that resiliency and that just that fight and that response. It was like you kept whacking them. Boston kept trying to whack them, and they kept popping back up. They were everywhere. And then, at the end, obviously they pull away with the 6-3 final, and it was just, they just wouldn't go away.
Yeah. I love that visual. Whack-a-mole, such an underrated game. That and skee ball, underrated games.
Love skee ball. Whack-a-mole is really bad for my OCD, and I'm like, I already have control issues that I'm in therapy for. I don't need a game to bring them out even more, but yes.
I'm here therapeutically for anyone who gives me a giant hammer and says hit some things. So, but different people respond differently. I understand that. My one word is food. I don't know what that says about me. I use a lot of food words, I realized. My one word is two words, and those words are fried pickles. And I think I've talked about this before. When I first moved down south, we don't have that up north, or we didn't when I lived up north. And friends were like, we have to take you to the Black Eyed Pea, which is closed now, and you have to have their fried pickle appetizer. And I'm thinking, nobody goes to a restaurant for the appetizer. It's not a full meal. It's not going to sustain me when I'm starving. It's not what I go to a restaurant for. I don't go for an appetizer. But I went to the Black Eyed Pea and I had their fried pickles and ranch, and I thought, this is delightful. And that's how I felt about this game. Like, look, friends, I come into this season for the postseason. I didn't get any postseason. We're not getting any postseason here. It's not going to cure all of my hunger pains and heart pains from watching this team all season long. But this game was delightful, a little nerve-wracking to watch. And again, I just don't set my heart on results, but just watching the way this team, like you said, the way they competed coming from behind, the way that they were tenacious against, Boston, that they were puck hunting. And we're going to talk about some more aspects of this game that really were highlights for us. But I thought, okay, this is good. Like, this is a really good appetizer. This is an appetizer worth going to a restaurant for. Now, I still want the full meal, and I'm not going to get that this season. Maybe that's what next season is for. We, of course, always ask our Locked On Predators insiders for their one word, their thoughts. Before, during, and after games, quite frankly, we're very chatty. Rebecca's one word, my one word of the game, is a takeoff of what Emma likes to say. Sure. This team gives me whiplash. Went into this game, zero expectations. No idea what to think. Just, you don't know how to set expectations for this team. Leonora, I love this. Leonora, you are a journalist at heart. My one word, WTF. Who the F was this President's Cup worthy looking hockey team? When the F did they decide to show up and play like this? Where the F has this team been all summer? Why the F have we had the season we've had when we can play like we played tonight? What the actual F? Existential and accurate. This is just one of those games where you're like, it's here. I can see it. Is it going to go away? It's the mole going back in the hole. That's, I think, what us.
No, going back to the first one there with the whole sure, I had that thought looking at the line combinations just for at the start of this game. It was like, sure, why not? Throw them in the Cuisinart and just see what comes out. And that's what we're going to go with tonight. But then, of course, ends up being like some of the most chemistry and the best, just the best this group has looked all year. And it's like, oh, interesting, Andrew Brunette. With all the times that you were so quick to change up those lines, these were combinations you didn't think of until just now.
Yes. And coming up, Emma and I, we are going to talk about that because I think one of the biggest storylines from this game, yes, the Predators scored 6 goals, and we're going to talk about Stammer, and we're going to talk about Ryan O'Reilly, and we're going to talk about depth. We're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. But one of the biggest takeaways that has the most potential long-term is line combinations. Coming up, we're going to tell you about those combinations and tell you what we think we saw. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there is no better place to get in on it than FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. You're going to love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether you're backing your team for a late game rally or you're picking the player who's going to hit that clutch 3, you will never feel like you missed your chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit fanduel.com to join today. That's fanduel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Emma, I was with you sitting at home on the couch, and up on the screen comes the line combinations, and I had to actually pause the television and take a screenshot because I thought, surely this is not what we're doing. I mean, like, I had to piece it together. It took time. Was this a reach into the magic hats and put lines together? And yet, Emma, have the Nashville Predators, a gazillion games into this season, potentially stumbled onto an actual top line?
Well, I will say I love the optimism, and I think that
It's back, baby.
so
Briefly.
back, but back like Steven Stamkos, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I think, I'm hesitant with this team this season to make any sort of sweeping generalizations because they have been so inconsistent. So, like, again, sure, would not surprise me if they roll out the exact same lines against Seattle on Thursday and look like crap,
Oh, that's
sure.
Yeah.
So I think what we saw was really good. I'm hesitant to say, yes, that's our lines going forward. Don't change a thing. But I will say very, very encouraged by what we did see. That top line, we're just throwing everybody everywhere. It was Steven Stamkos, Ryan O'Reilly, and Luke Evangelista, which, okay, Andrew Brunette, is that what it took? It took being completely out of the playoff race for you to just be like, nah, whatever, put one of the kids on the top line.
YOLO!
Yeah, like it took that, and it's like, wow, amazing what happens. Was it O'Reilly and Stamkos have 3-point games. Stamkos has 3 points for the first time. Well, he has a point for the first time in 13 games.
Yep.
He scores a goal for the first time since January 23rd. And then Evangelista, you put him with quality line mates, all of a sudden, he's playing his best game of the year. Like,
Yeah.
by far, he looked incredible. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is what we were looking for. Like, this is the Evangelista we thought we had, like, towards the end of last year. That was the Luke Evangelista we saw last year at the end of the season and into the playoffs when we were like, ooh, he's knocking on the door of something here. And that was it. He needed that, I don't know if it's the elevated role with more minutes, the quality line mates, all of the above, but that was what was most exciting to me. Yes, Stamkos, I think we reverse cursed him because we spent most of the show yesterday talking about how bad he's been for the last 13 games. But hey, it worked. It was like earlier in the year when Pittsburgh came and played Nashville, and Sidney Crosby was in a slump at the time, and someone from the media asked him about it. And he said, well, usually when someone asks me about it, that's when I break out of it. So thanks for doing that. And that's kind of what happened here. It's like we finally started talking about it, and there we go.
Voila.
Not just 1 assist, but 2 assists and a goal. And it was the goal vintage Steven Stamkos.
Chef's kiss.
Right from his office. It's like, there it is. There it is.
Yes.
That was good to see. I will say, even with this whole scoring drought that he had, I wouldn't say I was ever concerned in the sense that like, oh my God, he can't play hockey anymore. Like he will never recover from this.
Right.
I don't think I was
Right.
ever, there. I mean, surely you want to get him going again, but I wasn't really concerned. So that's why this, like, it was good to see, but I kind of always knew it was going to happen. Evangelista really taking off and really
Yes.
looking good. That's what excites me, because if you're looking towards the future, it's like, oh, do you perhaps have a actual top 6 winger on your hands? And look what happens when you actually put him in the top 6. So, yeah, I think that was really good to see. And
Yeah.
it's a reminder of why Barry Trotz went and brought in guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Steven Stamkos. It's like to play with these younger guys and help bring them up, to
Yes.
take over as the next generation. And it's like, wow, we actually got to see that in action. And it looked really good. I'm not quite with you yet, Anne, on like, this is our top line. But hey,
Maybe it's the
it
closest we've looked to
yes.
something with potential that could carry over. Maybe to
Like,
the next game, maybe to next season. I know that's a shot in the dark, but it's the first time in a long time since last season, Nyquist, O'Reilly, Forsberg, where I felt like, oh, I see a thing. I
yeah.
see a thing where 3 players are making each other better for 60 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is it. Like all 3 of those guys made each other better, just like with the Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist. And you know what? Common denominator, Ryan freaking O'Reilly. No wonder Barry doesn't want to trade him. I think that, like I said, it could be the top line. I'm not saying it's there yet. I need to see that for a few more games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this was great, but I don't, I've been down this road before. I've watched this entire season. I know how this
You've
goes.
seen some things.
I have seen some things. This is not my first rodeo. I know I have seen this team, beat Winnipeg handily and
Oh.
then go on to just absolutely defecate themselves against the Islanders. So it's like I
You're not
I'm
wrong.
just
You're not wrong. You're not
I
wrong.
am this is why I am not the optimist that you are, because I just,
Yeah,
I hold on to those memories. They're hard to let go of.
I know. One of our insiders, Macy, this was what she was talking about after the game. She's like, seeing this Stamkos, Ryan O'Reilly, Evangelista line so successful was not on my bingo card for tonight, but I like it. Dare I say, I love it. I hope that line sticks around for a bit. It was fun. It was fun. And I love what you're saying about Evangelista, because we have seen Evangelista since he returned to the lineup. We have seen him have moments of, okay, there it is. And then we've had times where maybe in the course of a game he disappears for a bit. And in talking with Andrew Brunette, the thing Bruno keeps coming back to with Vange is he needs to keep moving his feet. He needs to skate. He needs to skate. He needs to skate. Luke Evangelista was a maniac against Boston. He was everywhere, but I love that his anticipation with Ryan O'Reilly and Steven Stamkos, that was kind of all on the same page. You didn't see those 3 together miss on what you think would be an obvious pass, an obvious play, an obvious, goal. Their tic-tac-toe goal, their bang 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 goal. It's like, okay, on the same page. And it gives me hope that it's there. And you're not wrong, Emma. You're not wrong. Like, the reality is, come Thursday against Seattle, who knows what the lines will be? Let's just be real. Who knows? And B, it could be the exact same lineup and it could look like a dumpster fire. But I come back to, this is the first time I felt like there was 60 minutes of a line that really looked like they were cooking. And I know we saw some of that with Marchessault and Forsberg, with Stammer as the center. But I like this better because it elevated Evangelista. And the bottom line is Nashville has to elevate some of these guys. They just have to. That's where they're at.
For sure. And we've talked about this too. Like, yes, bringing in the guys like Stamkos, Marchessault, etc., that's to accelerate the window, but it's not to completely like overshadow or take over what these younger players can do. But you need the right balance. And I think that, we saw that. And to be clear, we've been really hyping up this top line, and it's well deserved. But I think the second line and even, the third line was doing well too. I mean, it was the kind of, the depth that you've been missing from this team.
Yes.
And well, I mean, I was going to say it had been a top heavy team. It had been a nothing heavy team for a while.
Vaporous team, vaporous.
But I mean, like you talk about Evangelista, like let's look at the second line. Tommy Novak back at center. He had been on the wing for a while. You put him back at center on the second line. That's the role that he was supposed to play. That's the role that he was supposed to be. I mean, I don't know that he ever came out and said it, but I mean, when Barry Trotz signs him to a 3-year extension at $3.5 million a year, that's like, okay, this is our top 6 center. This is, they needed a 2C. That was him. And then he had constantly been, on the bottom 6, or he had been on the wing, or both. And it was like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, and again, it just seemed like Andrew Brunette was just pulling the ripcord on that way too quickly, because it was like, okay, Novak might get a shot at centering Stamkos and Marchessault. Ooh, that's exciting. Oh, one shift, we're done with that.
Yes.
And it's like, and so I think getting him on the second line with Forsberg and Marchessault, they had a really nice goal. Well, Novak had a really nice goal. Then Marchessault had one in the third period. And it was working. It was working. So it's like you're putting these younger players who are supposed to be kind of your future stars on lines with quality line mates. And now for one game, we saw the results.
Yes. And we're focused on this one game right now. Give us this 30 minutes of joy, you all.
Yes.
But having said that, coming up, we are going to talk about a couple of other important notes from this game, some positive. I also think we maybe need to address a little bit of concern. It's not a new one, but it's something the Predators still need to work on. You've heard us talk on this episode about our Locked On Predators Insiders. It is this great community where we text back and forth before, during, after games, anytime there is a hockey topic, and it's all done via subtext. It's an opportunity for you to communicate with Emma and I beyond the podcast about things like potential trade ideas, thoughts on lineup decisions, of course, your reaction post-game, and your reaction to breaking news. If you are interested in learning more about becoming a member of our insider community via subtext, you can check out the link in our bio or the description of this video. Talked about that top line, Emma, with Evangelista, Ryan O'Reilly, and Steven Stamkos. Stamkos breaking that drought. Also hit the 600 assist mark with his second assist of the night. You just love to see it. I have been chatting back and forth with a friend of the show, Deandra Liu. She, of course, covers the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning for NHL Network. And we chat back and forth about Stammer and hockey quite a bit. And so during the game, as she's covering a Tampa Bay game, I'm blowing up her phone. Stammer just had an assist and he's smiling. Stamkos, one-timer from The Office. You love to see that. You love to see him hit those milestones as well. So, of course, want to shout that out. We also need to celebrate the return of Mark Jankowski, who scored a goal in this game. And, for the people who consistently are like, why do we have players like Jankowski, McCarron, and Smith? You watch a game like tonight and you're like, this is why we have players like Mark Jankowski, Cole Smith, Michael McCarron. It is not that the coach is playing favorites or that they have blackmail material on Andrew Burnett. It is because they are role players who do their job. And I think we got to shout out the depth players that we saw, like Michael McCarron, Cole Smith. They just were not going to give up a puck. They just were not going to give up on a puck battle tonight. And there was energy. And when you watch them play like that, I think it's contagious.
Yeah, I think you need those role players, like you said. Like, now you don't want an entire team of Mark
Sure
Jankowskis,
don't. God bless
but
him, but no, you sure
but
don't.
yeah, but you also, you don't want a team with no Mark Jankowskis. I think that, they do play those important roles. They, use their size and their physicality to win those puck battles, which is so important I mean, it's important in hockey in general, but especially in the way that, this team likes to play. And I think that, maybe they're not the high skill guys, but they are, they're playing important roles to get the puck to those skill guys. So, yeah, good to see. I was really glad to see Janko back. It was
Yes.
unfortunate. He had been hurt, came back for a couple games, then got hurt again, was out. So really good to see him back in the lineup and, like you said, score a goal.
Yeah. And just of note, don't know what this means, but look, we celebrate any progress because who knows what tomorrow's going to bring with this team. Zachary Leroux skated this morning with the team. So you got to love seeing Zach Leroux taking some steps closer to maybe getting back in the lineup.
I mean, yeah, the fact, because he's on IR. So he, was not eligible to play until he's activated. He's not eligible to play in games, but the fact that he was even on this road trip, I think, is incredibly positive, because normally you wouldn't, like, a road trip like that with a player who's injured and still working his way back, like, you wouldn't have him join the team on the trip. You'd have him stay at home with a trainer, with, maybe the skills coach or something, or, skating and still doing stuff, but just not going with the team. So the fact that he was even on the trip, I think is a positive sign that he could be, we could be close to seeing him back, which would be really nice.
It would be great. I want to shout out to Spencer Stastny. I love seeing him back up in Nashville. This is not maybe how we saw his season unfolding, but I think it's been the right season for Spencer Stastny, and I thought he had some great plays. Mark Del Gaiso, ferocious. Again, another really good game from Del Gaiso.
Yeah, Del Gaiso's been awesome. And Stastny too. I think, I want to give him credit because he did have a rough turnover in the first period, kind of led directly to Boston's first goal. Just misplay behind the net, passed it right to their guy, and
there
it was. But I think the way that he responded to that and the way that he came back, like his next shift, he drove to the net and had a really nice backhand attempt. It was saved by Swayman, but I mean, like, that's the kind of resilience that you want to see, the kind of, that, okay, just shake it off. Like, it's fine. And that's, you don't want to see them, make one mistake and crumble or fall apart. So I think it was really good, pointing out the negative, which is obviously his turnover that led directly to that first goal. But the way that he responded and came back from that, I thought just showed a lot of maturity in the way he played.
And you touched on it earlier, Emma. That's not necessarily something we've seen across the board from Nashville. This has been a team that has not been able to handle that first punch. And I feel like we saw that in this game. Like, Boston would score and Nashville would just come back and kind of do what they needed to do to even things up. And we have not seen that from this team this season very often, with little consistency. So I liked it from Spencer Stastny. I think we saw some of that overall from the team that has been sorely lacking at times. And I get it when you're not getting the results. A gut punch feels like a gut punch. But here's one concern Dustin, one of our insiders, said, and I have to say that I had moments where I felt like this. And Emma, you're going to have to tell me if this is one of those like feelings or a fart. It's indicating something, but I might not be right. But Dustin was saying The Bruins were moving the Preds defense around with their puck movement, and every one of them fell for it every time. They ended up leaving Geeky wide open for that easy shot. It's like watching a group of puppies chasing a laser pointer moving around on a slippery kitchen floor. And I have to say, when Boston would get into the offensive zone and get set up, I felt uneasy because I do feel like Boston was kind of pulling the defense, not just the defensemen, the defense, and really finding those open things. And that's something where I'm like, man, at this point in the season, I don't really want to have that feeling. Was that something that you noticed, or is this just an indicator of something?
No, I think I actually felt the same way, particularly on that Geeky goal, that it was like
Yeah.
everyone was just following the puck. And it was like, I mean, in that play, I mean, has happened many times this season, but on that play in particular, I think the visual was so clear
Rough.
where you just saw like everyone falling. It's like a moth to a flame. It's like, woo, puck. And they just go. And then they leave the shooting lanes wide open in front of the net. And so that is, I think it is concerning. And like you said, where you felt uneasy. I mean, I think it was like the first 5 minutes of the second period, they were in Nashville's end the entire time. And so, of course, Boston scored. I'm like, they're not getting out of this zone without a goal. And they didn't. And I think that, that is, I think it is very indicative. It's one of those things that like we've seen it all year, but I like that very clear visual was like a light bulb where it's like, oh my gosh, that's what we've been trying to say, because we've talked about how UC Saros and UC Sonanen have been hung out to dry so many times this season by the defense. We say the play of the defense is bad, and not just the defensemen, but the defensive play of the forwards as well. And it's just, it looks like no one knows where they're supposed to be. No one knows I wouldn't say like their assignment, but it's not man to man. So it's not like you have one guy that you're staying with or anything. But I think that, it seems like no one knows what they're supposed to be doing. And and this makes so much sense because I talked about this on yesterday's episode with talking to Steven Stamkos about the system a little bit, and how, the whole point of it, to boil it down, is if you don't have the puck, get the puck. And it's like chase the puck. And we want to be in control of the puck. We want to have possession of the puck. So it's almost like a hyper fixation on that element of the system, that it's like, oh, puck, I gotta get it. And then you're just completely shirking all of your other responsibilities, like defending the net. And you're leaving UC Saros right there and he's like, bro, seriously.
Don't you like in that moment, I'm like, why don't we have UC Saros mic'd up? Because I want, like, in the moment, I am yelling at the television, there's a guy. And I'm like, is UC Saros in English or in Finnish screaming, is anybody paying attention to the guy right here in front of me whose breath I can smell?
Yeah. No. It's like when it is like when I'm walking my dog, and God bless her, she loves anything and everything, even when maybe she shouldn't. And so like if we're walking past someone, a complete stranger, she just veers off and starts trying to follow them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you've never met them. What are you doing? And it's like, that's what it was like watching this team with the puck. It's like, woo. And they just completely go towards the puck and just like block out everything else. And it's like, hey, you know why we're trying to get the puck? Because when they have it, then they're probably going to try to score with it. And they did. So it was a very, I thought, on that goal from Geeky, I thought a very powerful visual of the issues that we've been seeing with the defense, because it was very defined. I would recommend to anyone, if you didn't watch the game or didn't see that part of the game, go watch Geeky's goal from from that game, and you can see in the play leading up to it that it's like every single guy on the Predators just goes whoop, magnet to the puck
Yes.
and completely leaves the net wide open.
Yep. Yeah, it would, like you said, perfect visual of a problem that Nashville has dealt with defensively all season long. Now, tomorrow, the Predators are back home. They are playing the Seattle Kraken. What to expect? Who the heck knows? We have no idea. Hopefully, we're going to see these lines roll out. If there is not immediate success, we don't know what's going to happen after that, but we're going to talk about it on tomorrow's episode for sure. If you are like hockey hungover and you just need a little something, I just want to throw out there that the Milwaukee Admirals are playing the Texas Stars at 10:30 this morning Central Time. You can find that game on Flow Hockey. I just want to throw that out there because if you are one of those people that's like, sell off the old guys, bring up the young guys, introduce yourself to some of the young guys in Milwaukee. If you just need a little midday, mid-morning hockey, that's out there. Before we log off and just kind of sit for just a moment, you all, until March is so midnight in the feel of a win, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
March is so midnight is great. Add it to the list of swag that we need to sell.
Life-changing. It's life-changing for me. I'll stew
March is
about it
so
till
midnight.
midnight. March is so
Yep.
midnight. Mhm.
That's right. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at ANK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that is going to do it for this recap Wednesday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We hope you have a fabulous Wednesday. We will see you right back here tomorrow.